Yes, and we are live.
Okay.
There are professionals who are not lazy, who are not careless. There are professionals who are not underperforming. They are delivering results as the case may be. They are solving problems. They are carrying weights. They are often the people that organizations actually depend upon. And but the truth is, when advancement or promotion conversations actually come up, these names often tend to be shifted aside. And the painful question is not whether they are working. That's settled. The question here is, why is their performance not converting into advancement or promotion? Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Idime. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I can see everyone connecting already. Such a great honor to have you on board the Swift Institute sessions. And tonight, we are going to be having a conversation that is actually very critical. And tonight, we are going to be talking to professionals, who are actually in the corporate world or workspace, who are having these issues with advancement. And the truth is, most professionals are taught to believe that performance is the pathway to promotion. But the truth is, they eventually discover that performance alone does not move them forward. And that is why we are having this conversation tonight. There is often a very missing system between contribution and advancement. And that system actually determines whether work is seen or whether it's measured, whether that work is interpreted, whether that work is positioned at the level where career decisions are actually made. So tonight we are not treating promotion as luck. Promotion is not politics. There is structure to it. There is systems to it. So we are examining it as a system. And just talking about the context of our session today, this, like I said earlier, this is a session we are having professionals who are contributing at the highest levels, who are not lazy, but feel stuck when it comes to advancement decisions. It's for people who are producing results, people who are taking responsibility, they are supporting organizational outcomes, but yet when it comes to promotion, when it comes to recognition, they are often out of the conversation. And tonight, I'm not doing this alone. I have the singular honor of having someone to help us properly examine this, someone who is an authority when it comes to systems thinking. We are joined by Dr. Joshua Sopuru. And Dr. Joshua, just before he starts coming on board, is someone that brings a system oriented perspective to this conversation. And his work, his thinking sits around structure. He's someone who talks about functionality, systems behavior, and outcomes that are produced within real environments. And that is it's very important to this conversation because it's not just about career advice. This is about understanding the systems that actually are responsible for advancement or promotion at work. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Dr. Joshua. Good evening, Dr. Joshua. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Good evening. Yeah, good evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So glad to have you on board.
Thank you. I am happy to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, at the Swift Institute, we focus mainly on helping high performing professionals move from capacity to positioning and advancement. And our position is actually very simple. Many professionals are not stuck because they lack competence. The truth is, they are stuck because their competence, their capacity is not being translated into visible, measurable, and strategically positioned value. So, having given this context, Dr. Joshua, the truth is most professionals are taught to believe that performance naturally leads to growth, you know, and but the truth is many eventually discover that strong contribution alone is not enough. So a professional can be dependable, a professional at all can be valuable inside an organization and still remain invisible when advancement or promotion decisions are being made. So this is my question. From a system perspective, why does strong performance often fail to translate into promotion in the workplace?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. So let me just reemphasize some of the things you had said. Yeah, many people think that performance is the main thing and the only thing that you need to succeed in organizations, but actually that's not it. Performance is good. It's good to be diligent in what you do. It's good to perform well, but then there is a system, and is that system that determines if you are to progress even in your work, or you are to remain in that particular position. So one of the reasons why performance is not the only factor that determines growth is because organizations are structured as systems. Now, if you know what a system has inputs, and a system has processes, and a system has output. So if your inputs are very good, but they are not configured to be accepted as processes that system needs. So no matter the kind of input you give, it will only scratch at the surface. Now let me go clearer in what I am saying. Every organization has a goal, or every organization has um, a central objective, and those objectives can be divided into strategic goals. Now, if you are performing and you don't hit any of those strategic goals, then you are just left at the background. Those that perform well in organizations are those that meet those strategic goals. So, for example, if I am performing in an organization and I'm not able to translate my outcome into those strategic goals, I just remain an operational staff. And businesses don't want to lose operational staff. So why should they promote you when you are doing well as an operational staff? So the reason why those guys just remain operational staff and don't move ahead is because they have not been able to translate their operations into strategic goals that relates to that organizational goal. So if you need me to explain more, I can explain more, because I actually prepared a thesis for this.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that,
yeah,
but I just want us to stay just a little bit on that phrase, operational staff. That's a very strategic thing. People who are remaining at the operational level and not at contributing on the strategic level. I
yeah.
think we should stay more on that point. Just to add more light to the conversation. What does it? What is somebody doing to keep him at that operational level? Because sometimes I think it can be a mindset. When someone is preparing for a job, all that is on your mind is you want to be seen. So you are just putting in the hard work, and this can become a trap, and keep you on that operational level of operation, right? So I just want us to talk about the difference between an operational staff and a strategic staff, please.
Okay, yeah. So in an organization, there are three main managerial levels. So we have the top management, the middle management, and the operational workers. Yeah. The operational workers are those that, of course, they carry out the day-to-day running of the organization. They are not involved in strategic decision. And just as I said, if you're not involved in any form of strategic decision, if the only thing you bring in is work being done, then we would prefer you to be having those work done. But by the time you move from work being done into translating a strategic value, then you would go up that ladder. So it's like a triangle. Yeah, we have the top management, middle management, and level management, which we also refer to as the operation staff. So it's only when you are able to translate your work into a strategic goal, that's when you are able to climb that ladder. Let me give you a practical example. Two people performing the same kind of job and performing that job accurately. And one is able to report his job that, okay, I was able to I was able to restore that system. So I was able to put that system back in operation. And then that's the first person. The second person reports his job like this. I was able to save 20% of operation to reduce operational cost to 20% by putting that system into function. Now, which of these ones, these two, targets the strategic goal of that particular organization? Of course, is the second person, yeah? And
Yeah.
so those
Yeah.
are the kind of things management wants to hear. Now, the difference between performance and advancement is performance is doing work. You are doing your work and you're doing it well. But advancement is creating visible outcome that you can see, outcome that management can see. We are interested in top management seeing what we do.
Mm, mm,
Performance is also reliability. So management relies on you to carry out a particular task, whereas advancement is strategic relevance. And it's only when you move from being just reliable to having strategic relevance, then organizations will take you serious because anyone can take your place, actually. It's only when you become strategically, when you are relevant in respect to strategy, that's when you climb that ladder. Performance is also tasks being completed. I'm able to complete these tasks in X time, whereas advancement is organizational influence. So I influence the organization. If you are working for an organization and they know you only in your department, then you might remain in a certain level. But if
mm.
you influence the enterprise as a whole, these are the people that go from performance to advancement. Performance is also hard work. We work hard, and one of the questions you ask is, these guys work hard. In fact, most of them even close late. Most of them spend sleepless nights working on a particular job. But the problem is, the question is that job, is that work recognized? Because advancement is recognized value, not just your work being recognized, but your work being recognized as having value for the strategic goals of the organization. So by the time you hit the strategic goals of organizations, then you begin to be visible in that organization. They begin to top management begin to take notice of you. Now, as I said, we don't want to remove someone that is doing his work well on the operational level and take him to the to another level because we need you at that level. But when you begin to have strategic influence in the organization as a whole, then you need to be taken higher to make proper strategic planning and strategic decision.
Amazing, amazing. So we can say the issue is not just whether someone is just performing operationally. The issue is whether the person's systems are around their work, being visible or measurable or strategic in their contribution. We can give that summary, right?
Yeah. So there are five frameworks of organizational system. There are five
Mm.
of them. But because of time, throughout this presentation, I'm going to mention just three of them. And the first one is the visibility system. The other one is measurable value. which you need to bring in. And then the third one, which is very important again, is the so we have the third one being performance and advancement. These are three framework that if you really work on, then you'll be able to fit into that existing system.
Beautiful. I think we'll have time for you to really break down those system or framework for us very shortly. Yes, we have Mr. Chooks Gracious on board. Good evening. Welcome. Good to see you.
Hi, Victor. Good to see you. Hi, Dr. Joshua. Good to meet you.
Good
Sorry,
evening.
I'm a little bit late today.
Good evening.
Yes, Mr. Gracious. I think you've been listening to the conversation. I would like you to come in at this point.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Joshua. It's a pleasure having you here today with us. And thank you for the insights that you put up. The first question that Victor threw to you, but I want to take it to another perspective, and I want to paint a picture of what these invisible professionals that we're looking at pass through. So many professionals, they say, they talk to the manager. They say, my manager knows I work hard, but my career still isn't moving forward. Like the management see them on a daily, what they do, they put in the work, but they're still not themselves climbing up that ladder. So many of these professionals are productive, they are reliable, but the values or the value they bring is not being measured in a way that supports advancement. So they are seeing what they're doing, they're seeing the work they're doing, but it's not measurable to attribute them to be in for promotion. So the question is, what should a professional be measuring or documenting or communicating around the workplace if they want performance to support advancement? So there's a whole lot of work they are doing. But now we want to know, what are those things that they should be measuring or documenting or communicating to those on top of the ladder, like you mentioned in your formal input, that they should do so that the performance will support advancement at the place of work. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So one of the things you should document even as you work is you need to document the fact that what you are doing adds to the value of the organization as a whole. Now, just as I said, all these things boils down to the strategic goals an organization has. If you are an employee and I see that your work measures or fits into the goals we have, and you're able to document those things to show me that what you are doing is not just moving files in a department from point A to point B, but you are affecting the enterprise as a whole. So it could be you are affecting the enterprise in respect to reduction of cost. It could be that you're affecting the enterprise even in respect to having a wider share of the marketplace. So these are impacts that could be documented, and this is what we want professionals to document. Practically, I work in a DevSecOps organization, yeah, and some of the things I do is we investigate applications and then check for vulnerabilities in those applications. Now, it's very easy for me to do that and then tell you that this is the vulnerability you have on this particular application. And then that is work done, yeah? But if I tell you that this is the vulnerability you have in this application, and this vulnerability costs you X, Y, and Z, and I document this, then I'm having a strategic impact in that organization as a whole. And I become visible. One of the components of this system is visibility. That's what I want to hit. So I want to be able to document that my work has impact to the organization, respect to strategy.
You so much. That was so insightful. That was so insightful. So a professional needs to document every detail of what they do for them to be visible. Thank you so much, Doc. That was so insightful, Victor.
Yeah, can I just add some?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So organizations have value proposition. So for example, a value proposition is what organizations want people to see them as. For example, people see Volvo as as the safest car. So if you want safety for your family, you buy Volvo. That's the value proposition that Volvo sells. Yeah. Now, as an employee in an organization, I need to also have value propositions that I share every day within the organization. Now, my value proposition is tied to the value the company wants to give. And when the company understands that the job this guy does is tied to our strategic goals, then you begin to draw lights to you. Just to point that also.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. You just talked about ensuring that the contribution of a professional or an employee should be strategic and aligned with the organizational value proposition. Right,
Yeah.
that's a very powerful one. And just talking about positioning at this moment, the truth is many professionals actually become known for reliability and execution, just like we're talking about earlier. But over time, that reliability can also become a trap in operational roles, you know, and a person can become extremely valuable in their current position and still not be perceived as leadership material or next level ready. So, Dr. Joshua, how can a professional unintentionally position themselves as dependable workers perceived as leadership material instead of strategic or advancement ready talent?
Yeah, let me just make a quote before I answer that. Yeah, organizations promote people they believe can operate at the next level. So, and not simple people who perform well at the current level. So they will want you to be at the current level because you perform well. So they promote you because they believe you can perform well at the next level. So let me answer your questions. Now we can look at case study of successful companies and the standard that they lay, the kind of system they lay out. Yeah, let's take Amazon for example. Amazon has some leadership principle, what they call leadership principle. There are about 7 of them, but people usually make mention of 5 of them. Now, one of those principle is customer obsession. The other one is ownership. Another one is invent and simplify. The other one is think big. Now, in answering your question, you don't give strategic positions to people that are not leaders. It's not everyone that is a leader. Even though you know how to do your job perfectly well, you don't promote people because they know how to do their job. You promote people because you believe that they can work well in the next level. So there must be leadership traits in people in those professionals. So for example, ownership. If you go to the workplace, most professionals focus on tasks that are assigned to them, and that is very wrong. So whatever is not assigned to them directly, they don't take ownership of it. But a leader takes ownership. A leader sees the organization as his organization, even though it's not yours, but you see it as your organization, meaning that if a department A, is working on a particular task and you feel you can contribute to that, you take it as yours and you contribute to that. That's who a leader is. And by so doing, you also have visibility. I still go back to visibility. If you remain in the confines of just jobs allocated to you and you do that well, you don't have any leadership threat that warrants for you going to the next level. Think big, which is one of Amazon's principle also. Employees, professionals must think outside the box. We must not think of our position as just being limited to what I do on a day-to-day basis, just the operations I do. I must think about what goes on in other levels of management. It must be I must have interest in what goes on in the top management, for example. Because if I have interest in those things, then I'm able to structure myself that I become valuable to the whole organization and not to just my department, not just my department. So I hope I answered your question. I did not skip any of those things here. I can't hear you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, from this conversation, I can actually get that, it's not just about becoming useful, it's about becoming a strategic contributor to, or the strategic direction of the organization, just like we talked about earlier.
And in line with that, Doug, you mentioned something about responsibility, that these professionals, they like stick to it, like they just stay there. So another pattern in modern workplaces is what you just talked about, is that more responsibility is often mistaken for career growth. So when you see somebody, they keep piling responsibility to the person now assumes that, oh, they're piling this thing because I know what I'm doing. So many professionals are carrying more weight, more work, more aspirations, but without any formal movement in title or authority or recognition. So the question that keeps coming into my mind is, how can a professional tell the difference between responsibility that position them for advancement and responsibility that simply increases workload, like just going round and round and round, and so how can they distinguish with this? Doc, please
Yeah,
help
yeah.
us special on that.
One key indicator is if the only person you talk with in your organization are people in your department, or if the only person that calls you, uh, if the highest person that calls you is only your manager, then you know that you are not really making an impact in the organization as a whole. Because when you make impact in the organization, when you distinguish between you having more work that don't give you value from you having work that gives you value, is when you begin to get communication from those in different levels of management. For example, you can be in a department, you do your work perfectly well, you report to your manager. Your manager usually reports to the top management. So there's a ladder usually. And you don't get feedback from the top management, you get feedback from your manager. But in an environment where you become relevant, where you begin to notice relevance is when you don't just get feedback alone from your manager, you get feedback from people in other departments. And I have seen this practically in my work life, yeah, where you present a particular job and then you get feedback from people from other departments and other levels of management, not just from your department. So that means that your work has gone above the ceiling of your department. It's making impact outside your department. So just to answer your question directly, how you can distinguish overloading from advancement, jobs that lead to advancement, is if you remain in the circle of communication with just your direct manager, and the jobs you do, the output you get does not call for feedback from people outside your department.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. That's really powerful, and this actually drives us back to the framework you were talking about earlier on. About I think the first one you said there is the visibility system. You also talked about the measurement of value and also performance and advancement. Doc, I think it's time for us to actually go deep into these three frameworks that you were talking about earlier, because I feel like these are really foundational things, that can help our audience at this moment. Yes, please.
Okay, so let me just talk a little bit about the visibility system. Now, a major reason strong performance stagnate is the fact that they operate without visibility. So what they do does not pass through any visibility architecture. So some people work hard and their hard work is just private, whereas others, they structure their work in a way that it impacts leadership, and leadership is able to see that impact. So it is visible. And some of the key concept here is these kind of professionals are able to report what they are doing to the leadership. They are able to also communicate with stakeholders, and such communications could be even to ask questions, to engage stakeholders in questions. For example, we were going to produce, or we estimated we were going to sell so and so quantity of products this year. Did we meet that? So you're engaging leadership in communication, and also documentation. We see this also visibility in respect to documentation. They're able to document what they are doing. They're able to document their job and their work process. Also presentation. So they have an avenue where they can present what they are doing. And then relationship visibility, just as I have said, they have relationship with people not just in their department but people outside. So visibility is key, even in any organization. You don't just remain in your department and you don't want to interact with people outside your department. So the next framework is, sorry, I'm just rushing through. The next framework is measurable value. So whatever you are doing should have an outcome that can be measurable. So it's like a value proposition, just as I have said. So it must have value that can be measurable, and it must be tied towards organizational rewards. Rewards like revenue impact. So what you do, does it have impact on revenue? And if it has impact on revenue, then you must present it in a measurable form. So 10% has been that we have received 10% increase because of what I have done. Cost reduction, that's another thing we can target. Tie what you do to this measurable outcome. It could be cost reduction. So because of this system I have implemented, or because of this business process I have re-engineered, I am able to reduce cost by so and so percent. You must mention that percent. Efficiency also. This is what organizations try to reward. If you are a professional that is able to make efficient processes or create efficient processes, and are able to document that this is what you have done to create this level of efficiency. Also, risk reduction is another one. We should be able to present our work so that it shows that we're able to reduce risk in certain area. And the last one, which was the first one you made mention, was performance and advancement. So we should understand the value of the organization and channel whatever we do to enforcing the values of that particular organization. So if I'm reporting my work, I'm having the idea of this is the value of this organization, and my work is yielding towards the value of that particular organization. So these
Awesome.
are some of the frameworks here I'd like to discuss. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. While we're talking about on that measurable value, which is a very, very critical thing, right? You did talk about being able to report measurable outcome. Practically, from a system perspective, what does that look like practically in an organization or in the workplace?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So practically, I was able to implement a system that led to increase in respect to maybe the number of visitors we have on a particular app. Then I can report it in respect to making mention of what was in existence, and also stating the work that was done, and also what we have now. And it's also important for us to create a structure of evaluation, being able to evaluate what we have done. And that leads to feedback. One thing we want to have is we want to have a channel of feedback where leadership can give feedback on the outcomes that we have presented, and that creates communication.
Hmm. In other words, you are reporting the impact, not just the operation of what you're doing.
Not just the work, the impact. That's what I reported. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that. And moving forward, right? If performance alone, just like we just talked about the last framework, which is performance and advancement, if performance alone is not enough, then professionals actually need a system around their work, right? And the professionals who actually advance or become promotable consistently are often the ones who understand how to structure, just like you just talked about, work around a system of visibility, positioning, measurable value around their contribution. Doc, the question now becomes, what does a practical advancement system look like for a high performing professional that wants to translate into career movement?
Yeah. So what this system would look like is, of of course, you are not isolated to one position. Now you don't communicate with the same group of persons. Now I always emphasize on communication because uh, so most organizations have moved from the standard way of doing things to a a DevOps environment. Now, in a DevOps environment, what happens is you have like a central database, a central workspace where every department is like a node, meaning every department is able to communicate in real time to every other department. You are able to see in real time what is going on in department A and what's going on in department B. And if that's the kind of environment you work in, and you are communicating with just those in your local department, then that's a red flag. So what would be advancement, even in that line, would be like you are growing in your influence in that particular organization. So in a system perspective, yeah, a system is either a closed system or an open system. And for we professionals, what we try to build is an open system in the sense that we we are at the middle of combining the processes of an organization with best practices,
mm,
such that these best practices don't just remain best practices, but they are translated into strategic goals. So if I am in that position where I have business processes coming in, translating into best practices for my work, what I do in terms of performance. But that does not just remain in that level, it's also translated into strategic goals that are measurable, that can be measured in terms of its impact. This is the kind of system we want to build. So practically, when I go to work and I have a job assigned to me, what I think of is not just the fulfillment of that job, is
mm,
what is the impact of this job to the organization as a whole? How do I effectively report this job to top management that will bring visibility to what I do? So think of another person. The person comes to work, he gets a job assigned to him. The mindset is, I need to get this job done. But how does this job relate to the goals of the organization? Those questions are not asked.
mm,
So we
mm,
need to ask how, what are the bits, what are the parts of this system? How does it come together as one? And if I know that this system fits into this particular part of the organization as a whole, then I will emphasize the fact that that system fits into that part. I don't know if I make
mm.
myself clear. Yeah.
Yes, 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 you did. You know, the truth is, these things we are talking about are not thoughts. These are not things that are written on the white paper, you know,
True.
and these are the unspoken rules in the workplace, you know.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk about this for someone who comes to a place who is working in the workplace, right? And just like we're having these conversations, these are things that you don't hear generally. How can someone who is listening to us right now, what are the, let's say, three things they can practically start doing tomorrow to get themselves on the advancement track?
Yeah, first thing, interpersonal skills.
Mm,
You cannot survive in an organization as an island. You need to have interpersonal skills. People need to be able to communicate with you. You need to be able to communicate with people. One of the things I see is those that are able to communicate, those that are able to ask questions, those
mm,
that are able to um, have the leadership traits of ownership, seeing the organization as theirs. These are people that climb that ladder.
mm,
Because in asking questions, in relating with people in the organization, you get to make friends first of all, and then secondly, you get to understand the goals of the organization and what the organization is struggling with, and then you tend to solve problems. So when that is done, whenever you have any tax, think about that tax as an opportunity to influence the organization as a whole, not just your
mm,
department. And by the time we translate those tasks into meaningful, measurable value that reinforces the value proposition of the organization, then we begin to make impact. So I've spoken about interpersonal skill. I've
mm,
spoken about the way we relate with tasks, and then also accountability. Accountability is very important in climbing that ladder. Now, accountability to your top man, to your immediate leader, to your immediate head. is very important. And how does accountability work? Accountability is twofold. Yeah, if as an employee I decide to report, I decide to be accountable to my top manager. Now, what it creates is a ripple effect. It creates like a feedback, even from the top management to myself. So, and that's why it's good to be accountable in the workplace. So, in terms of accountability, practically, I have this job, and I discover that I'm not able to fulfill that job the way I should. It's good to liaise with the top manager. It's good to liaise with your leader, and then explain the difficulties in that job and dialogue on that particular job. With that, you get different perspective of that job. Now, in the organization, I round up with this. The organization is made up of three arms. It's made up of people, it's made up of technology, and it's made up of the organization itself. Organization is divided into two, which includes the business processes that takes place in the organization, and also the structure, the leadership structure of that organization. What we do in organizations is the our day-to-day activity just works on the processes in that particular organization. But those three arms are meant to work together. The organization, people, and technology are meant to work together. So if we are able to harness those three arms together, and people speaks about interpersonal relationship you have with people. So if we're able to make those three arms work for us, then we climb that ladder. So I've spoken about communication, first spoken about accountability, first spoken about the attitude we have towards work, how we see our day-to-day activities. You must see your day-to-day work as an opportunity not to just influence the department, but to influence the organization as a whole.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Doc. And
Thank you.
I think this discussion has been really fruitful tonight. Tonight, we've discussed not just about working harder; it's about understanding the systems, the systems between performance and advancement. Doc has uh, taken us through interpersonal skills, accountability, visibility systems, strategic communication, and even strategic contribution and accountability itself. So this is understanding the fact that strong work matters, but the truth is strong work alone cannot, lead you to advancement. Strong work must also become visible. It must become measurable. It must become interpreted correctly, and it must be positioned where promotion decisions are made. The truth is, advancement or promotion is not automatic. It is structured. There are systems to it. I want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Joshua Sopuru for joining us tonight. It's been
Thank you.
really, really insightful. And I want to say a very big thank you to everyone who has joined us. We see you. We have a lot of people watching us tonight, and I want to say thank you once again for joining us. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. You can do well to give us a follow, and we are basically on this issue of moving from performance to advancement. I want to say a very big thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Chooks, last words as we round up.
Thank you, Doc. That was so insightful. Can't wait to have you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
Thank you
Can,
so much,
can,
Doc.
can
Please
I
go
say
ahead.
something?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
go ahead.
I appreciate this organization so much. Why? Because these are topics that are so these are topics that are difficult to really explain, to pull people out of their comfort zone into understanding that there is more that they need to do, not just work.
Definitely.
And for you guys investing your time in it is something worth calling out. So I
Thank you.
appreciate both of you so much. I appreciate you,
Thank you,
Sir
Doc.
Chooks.
Appreciate it
I
too.
appreciate you,
Appreciate it too.
Sir Victor.
Appreciate it too.
And thank you so much for the opportunity. And I hope this was a blessing to everyone. Yeah.
It was, Doc. We're so inspired. Thank you so much. We're so inspired.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Doc, for joining us. We'll surely love to have you back very soon. And
Definitely.
we're looking forward
Thank you.
to the next conversation. All right, good night, everyone, and see
All
you
right.
same
Bye-bye.
time next week.
Yeah, bye-bye. Victor, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Today, Victor, I want to start by saying I'm sorry.